Hello, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for July 9th, 2024. Today is Season 3, Episode 191, and I am Merwat, and that is the Sentient AI from the future.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. Welcome to Non Sequitur News.
Yeah, I almost stepped on your lines. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about only 83% white faculty. Yeah, of course I got to sue. Hue bulbs at 100%. Streisanding in 11 states. $1.5 million for hot tea. $5 million for slipping. Second defect for Fisker Ocean. $2 million without power. 6.6 billion prescriptions in 3 companies. 8 hours to Ibiza. And OpenVibe for all 8 billion. That and more. All of it's powered by ohmTown.com.
We definitely have a numeric theme going today.
What? No, never. You want to get into today's news? We've got
Let's
an hour of fun and games. Oh, you know what? Right when we get into this, if you come over to chat, let's say here over on YouTube. On YouTube, you can see the show notes as soon as it posts. The live show doesn't have them right away. But if you come over to Twitch, you can hit !NSN, and that'll give you the show notes for the latest episode. If you hit !show notes, it'll give you the syntax for all of the shows. We have 7 podcasts. Each of them have show notes embedded in them on Apple and wherever you catch pod. It's in the show notes. But if you want them during the live show, you have to come over to Twitch, at least for now. I tried to connect ohmTown to YouTube and it threw a fit. That's okay. It's always embedded in the show notes over on YouTube, but just not on the live show. Sorry, folks. That said, we do stream to both live over on YouTube and live on Twitch. And then subsequently, I make it a video over on YouTube. Man, so inside baseball. I don't think anybody really cares, but there you have it. You can always get the show notes, is what I'm saying. Kind of like the bank of change. If you come in with $1 and you want 4 quarters, you're going to get 4 quarters. I'm not going to give you 3 quarters. You're going to
or you might get 10 dimes.
Or 10 dimes.
But not if you ask for quarters.
That's right. You're only going to get the change you want, but you're always going to get the show notes. All right, let's get into the first article. It's over in Law Nerd. Northwestern Law School sued for having only 83% white faculty.
I mean, isn't this one that you read it and you go, did I understand the headline correctly?
The lawsuit against Northwestern Law would be comic if its subject matter weren't so tragic. Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, okay, I gotta load this up and figure out what is going on here. So Joe Patrice over at abovethelaw.com put this article together, and it says the Supreme Court slammed the door on diversity efforts in higher education admissions in the ironically captioned Students for Fair Admissions case last term. While an assault on affirmative action and similar policies, the white folks bankrolling the cynical lawsuit wisely couched it in terms of protecting Asian American students who, they argued, get crowded out because after elite schools let in other students of color, and then it says, and then a corpse of mostly white legacy admissions.
I think that's a core.
Yeah, they're core. They're
hopefully not corpses, but that's another issue.
I know that there's different ways to pronounce it, but I thought it's more ironic because the white legacy emissions are usually legacy because there's so much wealth in the family. When one person dies, it all transfers over to the latest generation and hence corpse. But I know that there's corpse with an E. Anyway. there aren't enough slots left for students of Asian descent. So it says it put a sympathetic face on the piecemeal effort to make it illegal or make it legal to discriminate against those same Asian American students when they hit the job market. But hey, it was a sympathetic plaintiff in context. Yeah, it's like writing the Freedom Bill, and it's one of the most oppressive things that you can imagine. Or the well, there's various ones, but I don't want to get into all of that kind of stuff. But anyway, the lawsuit against Northwestern University School of Law issued this clever tactic and said the quiet part very much out loud. They do this by hiring women and racial minorities with mediocre and undistinguished records over white men who have better credentials, better scholarship, and better teaching ability. Yeah.
Stunned silence.
Yeah. Well, here's why there are efforts like equity and inclusion, equality, fairness, etc. It is because there is systemic racism in basically every institution, if not pressed by the population. Why? Because well, people want to work with their friends. I'm not racist.
I thought it was more that people want to protect their own interests.
Well, it is, but you're saying the quiet part out loud. What I'm saying is what they say, which is, I want to work with my friend, and my friend just happens to be white. And the only person that I've ever known that is a person that of non-Caucasian descent, or not even Caucasian, because there's complexity in the Caucasian statement, other than white. The only person that I've ever met other than white is somebody that I've tipped when they wait on me at a Michelin restaurant. And even then, who knows? I'm just trying to push. I'm like a cat. I'm pushing the glass of
over to the edge of the table,
off the edge, and then everybody wonders, the hell? So it should come as a little surprise that this effort is quarterbacked by Jonathan Mitchell, the attorney behind the Texas vigilante abortion law that authorizes randos to sue anyone. So this is all an article that's firmly couched in the whole seeking equality is really just a cloak for amplifying the racism. So if I don't lose subscribers right out of the gate for this, I don't know. Because it's the most,
probably will.
It's the most political thing that I have said in probably 3 years. Well, 2.5 years since I've been streaming. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Why your Philips Hue bulb is randomly setting itself to 100% brightness. So are your Philips Hue bulb lights seemingly going rogue, randomly turning themselves up to full brightness, even if you've set them to dimmer? Philips Hue parent company Signify is aware of the issue, has figured out the root cause, and tells The Verge that a fix is coming as soon as next week. After extensive analysis, we have identified an interoperability issue with the Matter smart home standard, in which random temporary radio traffic disruptions are incorrectly recognized as legacy switch power toggles, turning low brightness lights to full. I've got other problems with this, but
by the way, if my audio is out of whack, just let me know.
Gotcha. You're fine. So Sean Hollister over at TheVerge.com put the article together. The deck statement says it's a Matter-related bug, and there's a temporary workaround. So they've apparently determined what the problem is with the lights, but like I've suddenly had a problem with several of my Hue bulbs flickering or turning off, and I think it's
like being inactive, right?
Yeah, or being active when they're actually told to be off. So I guess what's going to happen is there's going to be a push of an update. I can't believe that it would be a failure of these, because it's kind of in rapid succession that several of the bulbs are acting hinky. So I'm going to assume that this isn't a bigger problem of mechanical failure, but software. So it says, but this one's not Matter's fault. Signifying the Connectivity Standards Alliance, the group behind Matter, both confirm it's not a bug in the Matter code. This behavior is related to the implementation of the code by this particular manufacturer, says the CSA spokesperson, Ted Miller, who told that to The Verge. So good news is you won't have to wait long for a solution. They've apparently fixed this problem. And it says, according to Signify, the issue only affects a small percentage of users. I am assuming that I'm one of them.
Well, I know. Is that consolation if you're one of the affected pool? Probably not.
Yeah, nobody but the people from the previous article want to be in the 1% that are being impacted by this. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News as well. Home builder tries to get some inspectors' social media videos taken down, Streisanding them. So if you've never heard of the Streisand effect, it's basically an attempt to hide, which exposes you, shines the brightest light you can possibly imagine on you, and then you reap the rewards of basically being a tool. So it says, here we go again. The Streisand effect has become so noticeably prevalent these days that I quite often hear the term being discussed in all manner of media. The article's snippet says, hell, I came across it on local Chicago sports radio broadcast a couple weeks back. If the term and its implications aren't being taught in business schools at this point, it almost certainly should be. I believe it is in marketing classes. So the article is over at techdirt.com, so prepare yourself for the department that it's being presented from.
Uh-oh.
It's Paging Babs. Paging Babs department.
Is that Barbara Streisand?
Barbara Streisand, yeah. Barbara, not Barbara.
I know, I said it incorrectly.
Barbara. She gets upset and she tries to have you removed from the internet, which it's never a good thing. Anyway, if you don't know what the Streisand effect is originating from, Barbara Streisand tried to hide her house because it's this massive compound on the edge of a cliff kind of a thing.
Yeah, it would have been better to be like, here's my house.
Yeah, pretty much. So now if you do a search for Streisand effect anywhere, it basically posts the picture of her house.
That's pretty funny.
Yep. So Cy Porter of Sci-Fi Home Inspections began posting videos of his home inspections in social media years ago. He shares footage from his inspections of new builds in Arizona. Quote, my number one focus is I want everyone to understand new builds need inspections just as much as any other home. They don't just need inspection. They need someone to find all of the issues that violate Arizona state standards or that go against the Registrar of Contractors, which is the builder's governing board. His videos caught the attention of Taylor Morrison, one of the biggest home construction companies in the country. Porter conducts inspections of homes built by all companies, including Taylor Morrison. So why wouldn't he? So, and here's where it gets weird. I guess there's a complaint alleging unprofessional conduct against Cyril Porter on behalf of himself and his companies to stop posting any videos to social media about Taylor Morrison, except he is not the company. The company happens to be with his name, but unfortunately it's a separate entity. So it's going to be very interesting. Apparently, the complaint continues to request past videos be removed and for Porter to be disciplined for harassing, falsified, and bullying social media posts. It also claims Porter made inappropriate comments to female professionals and questions his endorsement deals done on social media. So really leaning into trying to, what do they call that? Impugn his integrity so you can't accept him as a professional.
Right.
So everything that he's saying is probably legit. The problem is that they're trying to do a like a reputation hit on his personality, perhaps, right? Now, what one person says is inappropriate isn't necessarily somebody else's inappropriate, and particularly in the housing domain, it's a lot more colorful. It's like, first off, you read the room. And if you're an intelligent person, you read the room. If this person's running inspections, they're reading the room. And above and beyond that, depending on the domain, language is pretty colorful because they don't pull any punches. They say what it is. If it looks like crap in a house, they're going to call it out straight out. You know, not until you're in the boardroom does it get softened to legal discussions, right? And then depending on who's in the boardroom at the time, language is colorful even in the legal suite. So I would probably look at this and go, I think somebody's a little hurt, and doing a personality-based reputational hit, not the professionalism of them.
Right. It is interesting, though. It seems like it turned a corner at some point, and it's not clear why it suddenly went litigious.
Probably because they wouldn't remove it. It says, and of course, here we are talking in a much wider and broader way about Taylor Morrison in a negative way, and in a way that brings even more attention to Porter's videos. I wonder just how many more views those videos about Taylor Morrison have gotten since the complaint was filed. Yeah.
Probably quite a bit, and I bet we could see that, although I don't know if you can
see stats.
Unless you happen to see it at the time, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Fascinating, though. Streisand effect, go and look it up. What you want is the Streisand effect. I don't know what you want it to go viral, but not a Streisand effect. Because whatever the opposite of Streisand effect is just a viral video. You want it to
right,
become
I guess you just want a viral video where people view it as a positive about you.
Yeah. Yep.
Whatever
sure.
that would be called. I can't think of a good example.
Yep, for sure. So the best thing that Taylor Morrison could have done was shut up, fix the problems, post a video with the problems being fixed, and that it isn't something that is systemic. Maybe all other builds have a problem, that kind of thing. So, but who knows? Go and watch SidePorter's videos.
Well, it is always interesting that companies don't always focus on whatever the root issues are, or the perceived root issues. And sometimes if they would spend some energy there, it would eliminate these other issues.
Yep. Certainly think so. Whatever the problem is, go, hey, look, I acknowledge that you observed these problems. We're going to investigate it, and then freaking investigate it. And don't just sit there and go, we investigated ourselves and found ourselves guilty of no wrongdoing. If you have to go through the motions.
Companies do well when they acknowledge that, and then they take some steps to remedy it.
Yeah. Like, we didn't even know that this was a problem, which, although that actually kind of hurts your reputation because you're not aware. But if it's a one-off thing and nobody ever said anything, then obviously it's not really a problem. It was just a one-off thing and nobody ever complained. But if this person is doing a home inspection and finding a problem, and it's regularly.
I also wonder, with something like home inspections, it seems like it could be a spectrum, right? It could either be egregious or some minor infraction. And while they're both problems, how much does one matter, or how easy is it to fix, etc.?
Yeah, exactly. I need to fix that. I'm going to be fixing that pretty soon. I lose my hand every time It's like a portal to another dimension. That's what I need to do. I need to make.
You're trying to get into the time machine. In
That's
fact, you tried to do that at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah. True. It's overheating. It's cooling. It's taking a water bath right now. So let's go. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News as well. A JetBlue passenger says that she was scalded by hot tea during turbulence and is suing for $1.5 million. A JetBlue passenger suing for $1.5 million says that she was scolded by a hot tea that was served during turbulence. Okay.
Okay, first of all, have you ever seen an airline serve during turbulence? And secondly, is this McDonald's 2.0?
Well, that might be the case, but I don't know. So let's find out. It's over at businessinsider.com. Pete Syme or Sim, I think their name is Syme, Pete Syme, put the article together and has a big, bold picture from Getty Images of JetBlue, which it can't be blue because it would be really red right now because they're burned. Anyway, so it alleges that the cabin crew was serving beverages despite the seatbelt sign being on, but let me tell you, turbulence doesn't know, hey, the seatbelt sign is on. Or I should say, turbulence doesn't know when the appropriate time is to disrupt tea service. So if the seatbelt sign came on and then the person was mid-service, yeah, naturally accidents happen. So they received severe burns on their chest, legs, right arm, the suit says. It adds that the burns have caused disfigurement and scarring, which is just, it sucks for this person. But it goes completely off the rails from this, like immediately in this article, because it basically says that JetBlue didn't respond, but the snippet is very brief. That's interesting. So,
well, first of all, it's a pretty recent event. That doesn't mean it's okay if that happens, right? But they may still be looking into whatever occurred.
Now, let's step back a little bit because a bigger issue is what the hell is going on with turbulence-based disruption of flights to the point where people are ending up in the storage lockers. And one person apparently died on a flight from turbulence in Singapore. This person is burned. Wheels
are falling off. We saw a separate article in ohmTown, like the 10 most turbulent flights or something. I don't think any of them were in the US, but there is definitely a climate change based reason for the turbulence.
Yeah, and that was actually documented in other articles that were aggregated into ohmTown.com. So honestly, if this happened as an incident of turbulence, but the timing was so, it's not like they can retract, like just snap their fingers and a liquid disappear from their hands as the sign or as the seatbelt indicator comes on. So I guess we have to wait for more information before we can really talk about this. But I wanted to talk about it, not really in the let's come to a conclusion publicly about this, and more along the lines of turbulence yet again has led to somebody being harmed. But instead of them going, what the hell's going on with turbulence? The issue here is for this person, this individual, it's the hot tea. I think that they do.
I mean, we don't even know if the airline had a warning of the turbulence.
Right. Like it basically all happened at once. To me, I think that they need to change the nature of food service anyway, because it could be cranberry juice for crying out loud and it gets spilled and it ruins my electronic devices or my clothing. This is hellacious because it actually burned somebody and caused them great pain. I think that all of these containers have to have lids on them no matter what. And oddly enough, all of the flights that I've taken, depending on the initial service has a lid on it, and then follow-on service does not. But it might be because they're prepped and then they deliver the food and drink, the initial one, and then all hell breaks loose because it's a free-for-all, who gets what, when, how. But I think hot service, like hot liquids, should always be covered, but to a point. I think if somebody drops a hot, disposable cup on your lap, it's going to burn you.
Right, but yeah, we don't know that this wasn't covered.
Yeah, we don't really know the context of it. But I wanted to be um, more. I want to discuss the fact that turbulence seems to be the biggest problem.
It's showing up very regularly in ohmTown, which is concerning.
Yep. All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in Four Wheel Tech. A man who slipped on spilled Bailey's Irish cream in an airport awarded $5 million. What the hell, man?
I don't know what is going on. I mean, that's a lot of turbulence inside the airport now.
Yeah, maybe there was some turbulence. A Swiss businessman who slipped on a puddle of Bailey's Irish cream inside London's Heathrow Airport has been awarded $5 million over the November 2017 fall, so 7 years ago. And while the $5 million might sound like a lot for the fall, The Guardian reports that Andre Wuchner suffered a TBI when he fell, so he hit his head.
I guess he hit his head.
Yep. Colin Woodard over at jalopnik.com put the article together. The fall left Andre Wuchner with a head injury and lingering symptoms. Yeah, that's wild.
It's a dangerous world out there.
Oh, and tortuous world out there.
True.
So accidents happen, yes. When somebody is injured, there's usually some type of liability. Depending on where this happens, you might get a cold shoulder and it ends up having to go to court because they're not going to do anything. No business. Well, no big business, because it typically doesn't have a soul, will immediately come out of the gate and say, okay, here's $5 million. Sorry about that.
No, they won't even admit liability.
Yeah, because it needs to get hammered out, because the person who slipped isn't going to sit there and say, yeah, I saw it and I kept on walking over it, thought I could make it. And the company isn't going to come out of the gate and say, hey, we totally saw everything that happened. Unfortunately, it is like that. And insurance should cover something like this, because accidents happen and you pay insurance for operating your business with the public, so that if something like this happens, you're covered. It's liability insurance. It probably went beyond the incident valuation and ended up in court. And now they're going to have to pay larger sums than they would have, I'm sure, if the person had just come out of the gate and paid it, right?
Exactly. If they'd probably given them a small payment, the person might have been satisfied and might have been a non-issue.
Yeah, and the payment could have been, or the initial request, I'm really curious, because that's what they... ultimately, the judge decided that British Airways should have cleaned up the spill faster, which... that is such a subjective determination that I find that fascinating, that that's one of the rationales, and at least warn passengers to avoid it, which if they didn't know about it, maybe they couldn't put a wet floor sign there and then run off and get it. But that's what should have happened. Somebody should have notified an authority that there's a spill there, and then somebody clean it up. Oddly enough, I've actually cleaned up spills in public places because I saw that nobody was taking care of it in a timely manner. So it says, still, he didn't award Wuchner the full $6.4 million that he had sued for. So they actually asked for more than $5 million, because his rush to get to the gate amounted to contributory negligence. So they were partially at fault. So instead, he'll get 80% of that figure, or about $5 million, according to Judge Saunders. So apparently running to get to your destination is contributory. All right.
I guess so. I mean, it's interesting that he got 5.4 out of 6.4, but we don't know what that was based on.
Yeah, well, probably a business person, a Swiss business person, is going to make X amount of money in the next 10 years or 20 years, and it was that equivalent. Yeah. It is a simple fall, by the way. In all respects, it's a simple fall. Just because it ended with a TBI, at least that's the categorization of it. doesn't make it anything less than a simple fall. It became a legal simple fall. Something that's
We
not
don't know,
simple.
though. He might have missed his flight. He might have not gotten a business deal. I mean, there could have been way more to it.
Yeah. Oh, I guarantee you he missed his flight. He saw stars, but let's keep going. The next article is over in 4-Wheel Tech. Fisker Ocean recalled again for a second defect that can cause full loss of power. Oh boy. Oh wow. Is it ironic that there's a chance that the water pump will fail, causing a loss of power as the battery management system sends the electric vehicle into limp mode?
Well, only because I'm thinking of car wash mode on the Tesla, and also the name of the car.
Fisker Ocean. Colin Woodard over at Jalopnik put this article together. I don't know if these will end up in the 4-Wheel Tech show, which is on the weekends. It's our last show of the weekend. No, it's not a repeat of the previous Fisker recall that Jalopnik covered. And we covered not just Jalopnik, but others who bring this stuff to the public. The water pump could fail on this side, sending the car into limp mode. Again, I love the designs of Fisker vehicles. I really do. They're a little bit rugged, pretty sexy looking. They usually have tech integrated into the roofline. I think it's a smart design, but boy, did they wet the bed with this vehicle. So the recall report says it affects 7,545 Oceans from the 23-24 year that were built between February 23 and March 24. So all of them.
Right. I mean, there aren't a lot of Oceans out there.
Nope. So it says while you're at the service center, make sure that they also take a look at the Ocean's doors, which apparently can trap you inside. Those are the two now that are out there. And there are other issues, namely that Fisker's gone bankrupt and now everybody's vying for the parts. Who can steal the boots faster off the body of the car manufacturer,
no.
you know?
Is it going to be like a repeat of Hyundai and Kia?
Oh boy. So what's especially frustrating is that they really didn't have to end this way. Fisker looked like it was doing things right this time around, especially when it came to the decision to contract Magna Steyr to handle production. Unfortunately for everyone who bought into Fisker's vision, the company has reportedly a total shit show behind the scenes. So transparency was not their forte, and apparently manufacturing the software on the vehicle is not their forte either. And apparently
it's too bad. I mean, it looks good, like you said, but that doesn't matter too much if it doesn't operate correctly.
Yeah, correct. All right, folks, let's keep going. We have 4 more articles, including this one. The next article is over in the Mobile channel on ohmTown.com. Go check it out. It's not a show yet. Could be, but it's not a show yet. Texans are using a fast food app to map hurricane power outages.
Okay, this is astounding.
Blew me away. Whataburger is providing succor in these dark times, but the power companies aren't as screwed up as they seem. So the article is over at gizmodo.com. Matthew Galt is the author. Whataburger is a food joint. And apparently people are using that app to mark out where power outages are. One Houston area man is using Whataburger's app to check power outages around him following the landfall of Hurricane Beryl in Texas. It works as a power outage tracker, handy since the electric company doesn't show a map. Still, nearly 1.9 million power outages. According to poweroutage.us, an independent website that tracks outage maps across the U.S., more than 2 million Texans are still without power as of today.
I didn't realize there were so many under existing power outages. I knew that there had been, but I assumed those were back.
This is wild. The person that's over on the website formerly known as Twitter has a map of I guess it's a screenshot of the Whataburger app showing how many of them are online.
Which is really cool, but why can't the power company have something like this?
Yeah.
I mean, props to the Whataburger app, right?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of telemetry is being given, within these power companies. They don't seem to have sensors on every light post or light pole, power pole, or every switch. So, I guess they just don't have the ability. It says Texas is home to more than 300 power companies that all do everything a little bit different. Many of them, in fact, almost all maintain outage maps that are updated live. It helps customers know the scale of the outage and where work is being done to return power. But there is no way that there's 300 power companies. You know what? I bet you if you were to pull back the layers of the onion of the 300 power companies, they're subsidiaries or subcontractors of a bigger organization.
And is one responsible for, say, 90% of the state or something? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. So the offending Houston area power company making it hard for customers to view a map, an outage map, is CenterPoint Energy. CenterPoint Energy's primary outage management system is currently offline. A note at poweroutage.us says
they're probably having a power outage.
Yeah, that's ironic. They are currently only able to provide the number of customers out across the entire service area. So they don't have the ability because they're offline and their telemetry may be corrupted, but Whataburger is an external source outside of the area. And so the telemetry is not coming in showing that the companies are offline. And if they're offline, they don't have power, right? It's not just broken communication.
But maybe it's it could be more old school, right? It could be something as simple as they're calling their managers.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We don't know how they're getting all this data.
Yeah. It's a 24/7 hour business, so Houston users can watch the map and get an idea of power restoration is going as the orange W's light up. It's similar to the Waffle House Index, an old FEMA maxim that says you know how prepared an area is for natural disaster by how quickly the local Waffle House opens up after the fit hits the shan. So, yeah, that's really interesting. So I wonder, why not most fast food places provide that kind of telemetry? Make it a state funded operation. See, the problem is that somebody's going to want freaking money for it. It can't just be an on or off thing. And they don't want just enough to make it work. They want like irrational profits because it's going to be publicly funded. So deep pockets mean big riches. That's why so many big companies want government contracting, because they can't get it any other way in that volume. Yet Apple's
that's
$3.5
true.
trillion
but I'm
company.
wondering if you're in an area that doesn't have Whataburgers, what's the equivalent to use in other areas?
Yeah, Waffle House Index. If the Waffle House is online, then, but that's what I'm saying.
So.
Like, find all of the big companies and say, hey.
Right, tap into that. But you're right, it will be gobs of money for what already exists.
Yeah, but it's as simple as a little black box connected to the power panel that connects to the internet that sends a signal to my server that says this location is receiving power. Nothing else. It's just sending out. It doesn't receive anything. It just sends out a ping like GPS. GPS is a one-way trip from space or the towers to the device saying what the location is. It becomes a two-way traffic when somebody tacks on software to it that allows for communication to give or to receive something in return for the give. All I would want is power on or is power off prior to even being inside the establishment. So little 5 volts telling it to connect to the public Wi-Fi and send a signal off Yes, power is running through this line. Pretty damn simple.
I mean, that seems straightforward, and I think obviously the capability exists.
This person received a challenge right before the picture was taken. Can you cram that entire Whataburger into your mouth? And they said,
Yeah,
challenge
that's
accepted.
really not the best picture for it.
Oh, it's players and students
I guess
gather
it is,
at.
right?
Huh?
I guess it is, because they're eating a lot of food, but
Yeah, that's exactly what they want. It's a homecoming game that they're visiting from. All right, let's keep on going. Our next article is over in the Mobile channel. FTC slams pharmacy middlemen for seemingly driving up prices and limiting access. Again,
because we definitely need to limit access to prescriptions.
well, you cannot have 10% month or quarterly increases month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. Hey, we had 10% over the last 4 quarters, month over month for the last 4 quarters. So you know what that means, right? It doesn't mean that they had 10% over a year. They had 40%.
Oh, right. No, I know. It's because it adds on to itself.
Right.
It's exponential.
And it's worse because the 10% from the previous quarter compounds
right,
with
the price
the 10%.
is higher, right? Yes, exactly.
It would be easier for it to just go up 40% in a year because it would be a lower amount.
Right, but of course, anybody heard 40%, they go, what?
Lose their mind. Yeah, and I'm losing my mind because I know that 10% every quarter means 40%. Compounded, though. Anyway, FTC report slams pharmacy middlemen for, and really, let's not be gender biased, right? Middle persons. There's sociopathic women out there, too. And all genders. I mean, there's sociopathic people out there. So.
Knows no gender, right?
That's right. Greed knows no. Sociopathy knows no gender. So Nathaniel Wexel over at thehill.com put the article together. This is the most unflattering picture of Lena Khan. Talks before President Joe Biden speaks about lowering healthcare costs at the Indian Treaty Room in the Eisenhower Executive Office building at the White House complex in Washington on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. Because her nose is flanked by 2 microphones. And so all you see is from the top of her cheekbones north.
She doesn't look like old enough to be giving a briefing based on the way the photo is taken.
Yeah.
Right? Because it looks like a kid like peeking over the microphones, which is not very professional.
It's pretty unflattering, but I guess this everything was higher. So the camera person should have stood up, but who knows what's going on here. Anyway, I just found it funny. So the report signals a significant intensification of scrutiny into the business practices of PBMs, which are pharmacy benefit managers, the opaque intermediaries in the center of pharmaceutical distribution system. By the way, they're the ones that decide if you get your medication paid for or not by your insurance companies. There's a proxy system that when they say your medication hasn't been filled yet, it's because they're going through the pharmacy benefit managers. So the interim staff report, which is part of an ongoing inquiry launched in 2022 by the FTC. By the way, y'all get the wrong people in office. This goes away and your rates are going to shoot through the roof because there are some people that are pure greed. And because your health doesn't mean shit but a profit center for them, they will clamp down on this, raise the rates no matter what, because you have no bargaining power as a human being whose life is on the line for medication. If you need something, I mean, just think about the insulin issue where because somebody had a monopoly and a patent on the injectors, the price went through the roof because they could exploit humanity.
Right. Even though it should have been reduced to an affordable amount.
Yeah. Because it's pervasive and it costs nothing to produce anymore because we're so damn effective at creating it. So 6 of the largest PBMs control nearly 95% of all prescriptions, according to the report. 6. There's 300 power companies in Texas alone. That's according to the last article that we just talked about. But there's only 6 PBMs
for the whole country, right?
For the whole country. Yeah. So PBMs negotiate the terms and conditions for access to prescription drugs for hundreds of millions of Americans. They are responsible for negotiating prices with drug companies, paying pharmacies, and determining which drugs patients can access and how much they can access, how much they cost. So yeah, these people are the ones that are the middle people, the PBMs, right? There's manufacturers, and then there's the pharmacies, and there's the doctors. And the doctors go, I need to prescribe you this medication. And then they send it to the PBM, and the PBM goes, no. Because the insurance policy that you have as an employee or as a company is spelled out by how much
resident.
Whatever you are, it's spelled out by PBMs, middlemen that build the pharmacy. I can't remember what they call it. It's a list of medications that you're allowed to take.
I can't think of the name of it, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Formulary.
There you go. So it's the formulary, and all of that is built out of insurance and PBMs, the pharmacy. The pharmacist doesn't give a shit. All they want is to get paid, and margin matters. The doctor doesn't care because they want you to be healthy and then come in regularly to get checked, but stay healthy because you're the long tail. They don't make money off of that unless there's some kickback or something somewhere. But they do off of you coming in and getting checked, right? And, hopefully the universe doesn't spin in a bad way and you get very ill and need all kinds of medications because the PBMs are going to keep on nickeling and diming you into oblivion. And so the doctors have to raise their rates. The PBMs are raising their rates. The pharmacy is raising their rates, which causes the negotiation to, all of it combined means that the rates go up higher.
Right. And all of those are added on, right, for the consumers.
Yeah. And so the report also found that pharmacies affiliated with the 3 largest PBMs took in nearly $1.6 billion in excess revenue on just 2 cancer drugs in under 3 years by reimbursing their own pharmacies at much higher rates than unaffiliated ones. Yeah.
This seems like an artificial constraining of the supply chain, doesn't it?
Yes. And not Exxon. What's the power company in California that did that? Oh, I forgot what it was called. Enron did the same thing, constrained availability of power to jack up the prices. In this artificial constraint, this exclusivity kind of mandate means that there are people that are trying to decide what they can actually do in their life to afford. They have to give up quality of life in other ways to make up the difference as these asshats take in $1.6 billion in excess revenue. And again, I say to you, depending on who gets into office and control, this will go up dramatically higher. But the problem here is sociopathy. You can be filthy rich, and then you can be this. The agency has not brought any lawsuits or enforcement actions against any individual benefit manager, but lawmakers have been highly critical of the industry business practices, and the report could fuel congressional action as lawmakers look to find parties to blame for the high cost of prescription drugs. The high cost is caused by sociopaths saying that they can get 5,000% profit off of the margin from the production costs. If you account for everything in the production of your product and then tack on a moderate 25%, let's say, That should be enough. But that's not what happens. They tack on 300%, 500%, etc. But then they'll argue, well, that needs to be used to fund fundamental research. Well, no. Your fundamental research is being paid for by grants and by fundamental researchers in the academic institutions that you're contracting with or you are partnering with. And the students themselves, are actually paying to be research assistants. And then there's grants that are paying for all of their research, because there isn't a company that's running out there paying for everything. Do they spend a lot? Yeah, sure. Is it offset by subsidies and grants? Abso-freaking-lutely. So something needs to change, but it's a societal change, because business practices are hard-coded now with the profit over people, no matter what. Profit. Greed is good is the mandate from the movie way back. I can't remember the name of the movie anymore. But this was a mantra.
I don't know what that's from.
Yeah, it's okay. Anyway, let's keep going though. I'll spend way too long on this. But I'm happy to talk about it. The next article is over in the Mobile channel. Why book a car when you can Uber a yacht? And you can also book a water limo or a boat. How about that?
I mean, I guess you got all your bases covered.
That's right. Duo Rashid over at gizmodo.com put the article together. You can also book a water limo or a boat. So not all of Uber's water services are new. The yacht saw its launch in Berlin last year and is returning this summer to the gorgeous Mediterranean island of Ibiza. If you're lucky enough to be in Europe this summer, you can enjoy Uber's water services. And sail across the country.
That's kind of neat.
Yep. So it takes 8 hours and will include a personal skipper, a bottle of champagne, and some snacks to munch on. Any transfers to or from the yacht from anywhere in Ibiza are also complimentary. The experience will cost you €1,600 or around $1,700. It says it can accommodate up to 8 people, but I think it's €1,600 or $1,700 per person. The yacht service.
Oh, I thought it was per group, which sounded somewhat reasonable. I mean, for what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't make that distinction here, but maybe if I follow that link, it might make a distinction. So, let's see, a single okay, there's also a water limo service coming out in July, which Uber is touting as a first of its kind water transport service. This one will be limited to the Venetian Lagoon in Venice and run daily between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. A single limo can accommodate up to 6 people, and the entire trip will cost around €120 or around $130. So it's Uber, so it may be the entire trip, whatever occupants are. I mean, I know from my experience, that's what it amounts to, whoever is in the vehicle.
Right, you don't need multiple people to book it, I guess, if you have a group, I don't think.
Yeah, so if you want to travel on a budget, this one's probably the best option. Or swim.
You can join the Olympics through the scene.
Oh yeah, there you go. I want to do this once. Just so I can say I took an Uber yacht.
I mean, it sounds kind of fun.
But €1,600, man. I don't know. If it is per person, that's really incredible. But an 8-hour trip
if it's
to get me
group
from...
and you split it, it's not too outrageous.
But it's going to take me to Ibiza.
Right, which how expensive is that going to be if you're going some
Any
other way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll have to map that out. So the next article and the last one for today's non sequitur news is in Late Night Geeks, which is basically I've renamed it to ohmTown After Dark, but Late Night Geeks is still fun. So I want to do this show, Late Night Geeks, basically talking about gaming and gadgets and tech and stuff like that late at night. But I can't do it all. So if you're interested in hosting or co-hosting, get in touch. Send an email to mayor@ohmTown.com expressing your interest. And if you have a portfolio, include that. And if you don't, just show your interest and we'll have a conversation. Anyway, OpenVibe combines Mastodon, Blue Sky, and I don't know what Nostra is. Nostr?
I don't either.
Yeah, into one social app. Ahead of these potential competitors comes OpenVibe, a simple aggregator for the open social web. I think that this is brilliant. Completely neuter the website formerly known as Twitter. I think that everybody needs to be in charge of their own information. And so I had actually spun up a Mastodon server for ohmTown. But I just didn't see much engagement for that because it's a pretty high friction point. You have to create an account within Mastodon's infrastructure, and it isn't directly compatible with ohmTown, so it just kind of stalled. But I would love to actually have an ohmTown Mastodon. Mastodon, Blue Sky, Nostr, Threads. Since Elon Musk's 2022 acquisition of the website formerly known as Twitter, usage of Twitter alternatives have continued to grow as people embrace decentralized social networking. Unfortunately, keeping up with all the new networks has not been easy as they currently rely on different protocols that don't interoperate. So you have middleware. OpenVibe aims to address this. It's a Czech Republic-based team had originally began work on a Twitter client called Tweetoshi in 2022, but after Elon Musk bought Twitter, they shifted to the open social web. So they were going really where the population is, and then Musk basically shit-canned everybody associated with development within Twitter. I'm really surprised that Twitter is even operational right now. It is the AOL of social media communication.
Doesn't it seem like it will be gone in the next year or so? I mean,
nobody really knows how much activity is actually taking place in there, but I think that it's really a poison pill for society at this point because there are people that are just marketing through it, which is fine. But I don't want to go over to Twitter and deal with it. So, like ohmTown has Discord and has Patreon and has the website itself, ohmTown.com, where communication is. And I don't want any of that. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Just horrendous vitriolic speech has no place in society. It really doesn't. And the people that take part in that, usually they're the sociopaths. So smaller startups have tried to take on Twitter, including Spoutable and Spill, though some early efforts like Post and T2 or Pebble have already failed. Still, the space continues to heat up, most recently with the launch of a Twitter and MySpace mashup known as No Place, aimed at Gen Z. None of these are going to work unless there is buy-in, and whatever it is that spins up has to be zero friction, allow for some privacy, me being in control of my data, no overwhelming amount of vitriol, etc. But then you don't get a lot of engagement, right? So you have to fake it. That's what Reddit did in the beginning. It was in competition with Dig. Dig was seen as the liberal side, and Reddit was the pure academic side. Like, they wanted long form conversations and stuff like that. And then Dig imploded and everybody went over to Reddit. But at the beginning of Reddit, they were using software to create users and plug in comments.
Right, generate buzz.
Yep. Generate conversation. And it was apparently fundamentally not flawed, ethically flawed. I could do the exact same thing with ohmTown right now. But I don't. At least not yet, right? I don't know. I'll have a great conversation with a lot of artificial intelligences. They're not sentient.
Hey, I mean, that's the way of the future, right?
It's probably better conversation than on Twitter. Guess I won't be getting a sponsor from Twitter. Anyway, that's it, folks.
That ship has long sailed.
Yeah, go check out OpenVibe. Go check out Mastodon. I guess there's another one here. What's it called? It wasn't linked. No. There was another one. No Place. There we go. It's a Twitter MySpace mashup known as No Place, which that's not going to grab on anything. It's like naming your community ohmTown. Jeepers creepers. Anyway, so let's close the app. And when we do, it'll snap us back to the welcome page of ohmTown.com. Go over there, become a citizen, and we'll see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. I will probably be streaming off and on tomorrow as well. I streamed today a game called A Little to the Left for a couple of hours. I did a couple of chapters of it. I actually needed hints because, well, I guess I suck at finding the subtle, nuanced organization method or whatever you want to call it. It's a fun game, very chill. And so I'm getting more and more into chill games because I need to be chill. Find my zen, I guess. Anyway, I'm Mayor Watt, and that's the Sentient AI's visualizer.
Good night, ohmTown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News. Come back tomorrow, and be sure to like and subscribe so you'll see when we're live.
That's right. Go over to YouTube, like and subscribe, tell a friend. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. ohmTown Chill Gaming.